Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. Stop me if you've heard this one before. A city with a sizable or even large black population just so happens to find itself experiencing a major water contamination crisis. Now, first it was Flint, Michigan, then Jackson, Mississippi, and now it's Houston, Texas. Yes, there have been a few others, but we're dealing with the biggest and most high-profile ones. If something happens one time, that's a phenomenon. If it happens twice, that's a coincidence. If it happens 3 times in a row, you got a definite pattern here. All these cities with black mayors in red states. But I'm sure that's just a coincidence too. Now, for those of you who don't know what's happened, in Houston, one of their water purification plants failed. Actually, it was a power transformer at the plant that failed. And then the backup transformer also failed, and the generators never came online as a result. So, a significant amount of the water going through that plant hadn't been purified. And now the city's under a boil advisory affecting over 2 million people. And this situation is wreaking havoc. Even the schools are canceling classes because of it. And so the usual rhetorical game of responsibility keep away has begun. The mayor is claiming that the electric system at the plant was hardened, that the city had taken the necessary precautions, but apparently it just wasn't enough. The power company is blaming the city, saying that the transformers that failed belong to Houston, so it's not the power company's fault. But what got me is the mayor of Houston, Sylvester Turner. He's talking about all the money that the city had dedicated to improving that particular water treatment plant, something on the order of over $20 million. And as we can all see, that was money well spent. All right then, so what exactly happened at the plant? Nobody seems to know exactly why the power transformer failed. The mayor is saying stuff happens. I'm not making that up, by the way. That's what he actually said. Stuff happens whether I like it or don't like it. Well, that's certainly the kind of decisive leadership and pragmatism the city needs at a time like this. I can tell why this guy got elected mayor. You know, maybe if Sylvester Turner had spent more time paying attention to Houston's infrastructure and less time trying to find the coattails of some white Democrat to swing off of, like he did with Michael Bloomberg a couple of years back during Bloomberg's failed presidential run, maybe Turner might have been on top of this. But yeah, for those of you who don't remember, Mayor Sylvester Turner of Houston was one of Bloomberg's collection of black misleaders who was endorsing that clown 2 years ago to see if they could lead the black community around by the nose, get these bought and paid for bootlicking Negroes, and try to get us to all overlook Bloomberg's record of hideous racism on things like stop and frisk, as well as all the other anti-black racist things that Bloomberg has said and done over the years as mayor of New York City. Sylvester Turner's just trying to climb the political ladder, no different than the Negroes in Michigan and Mississippi have been doing. Turner's looking for some white politico's coattails that he can ride on and try to finesse himself a cabinet position, anything he can get in D.C., That way he'll play the game, make some contacts with the big multinational corporations, use whatever government position he finagles for himself to dole out some favors and get paid off for it, which is what these corrupt clowns do when they're in government. Now, of course, this is not to say that the black constituents of either Michigan, Mississippi, or Houston deserve any of this. They do not. They are the victims here, full stop. They have been betrayed by the very clowns who they put into office to act in their best interest. But the point is, having these self-interested, self-centered Negro misleaders in charge is a threat, not only to the black community economically, but also a threat to their very lives. Water is being weaponized against cities with significant black populations. Just take a look at the drought conditions out in the Southwest, places like Nevada. Lake Mead is critically low, but have you noticed that in these majority white enclaves and cities, you don't have these massive water contamination crises popping up all the time? One of the things I've always told you is that most genocides are not carried out by some act of mass murder like the Nazis did. As genocides go, Nazi Germany was actually an exception to the rule. Yes, rounding up target populations does happen. But that's not the way that genocides are typically carried out. The way genocides happen more often than not is through resource deprivation. And it doesn't happen all at once, it happens over a span of time. These frequent attacks on black municipalities to remind us that we are a people being targeted, this is what's actually going on here. And these do-nothing misleaders are too busy trying to pass around their resumes to do their jobs. And not to get into conspiracy corner, but let's be honest. The way this stuff keeps happening over and over, and nobody sees nothing, nobody ever knows what's going on, nobody does anything, you have black people who populate these cities. But the actual technicians and crews who the city has operating and maintaining and monitoring the equipment in these systems, these people by and large oftentimes don't even live in the city. They usually live in the suburbs or in the next town over. Ultimately, any mayor is nothing more than a figurehead when the people that he delineates responsibilities to decide that they're going to work against the city's interests. Even worse when you have some incompetent who's only in there because he has the best shuck and jive BS routine, which is tragically what so many of the Negro misleadership class have been doing. This is how these guys came to office in the first place. Now, power has been restored to that particular water treatment plant. They got the power back up and running. It only took a few hours for them to do so. But the city is still under a boil advisory, so the citizens can't use the water to drink, wash food, bathe, or brush their teeth anyway, not until the water testing is finished. But we all know how that one's going to go. They'll do their test and they'll immediately claim that the water is now totally safe to drink and you don't have to worry about boiling it. But that's what they did in Flint too, you'll recall. And Obama himself went there and pretended to drink the water to prove how safe it was, but he barely even let it touch his lips, and he definitely didn't swallow any of it. Well, the people in Houston, they're not swallowing this either. Houston's black residents have been dealing with the persistent water quality problems in that city for years. And a lot of them have avoided drinking tap water altogether because of water contamination problems in the past. Last year, Houston was sued as a result of the frequent sewage overflows that the city has had. A lot of people in Houston basically only use the tap water for washing dishes and taking baths. They don't trust the water supply. So this isn't new. It's been going on for a long time because resource deprivation is a process, not an event. This mess keeps happening over and over, and these white supremacists who are responsible, either because they haven't been doing their jobs or they've been blocking funding or what have you, none of these people ever gets frog-marched into prison. Nobody ever gets punished. The nation has an unlimited checkbook for Ukraine, but for some strange reason, these black enclaves just never seem able to get those federal dollars, and the federal government is always investigating. What are these Republican legislators doing withholding the fund? We're going to investigate. And this isn't about Democrats versus Republicans, because you don't see the GOP playing these same games with white areas comprised of Democratic voters. And when a white enclave has an environmental problem, these politicians send money and personnel to solve it. They don't just come in bombing into town looking for a quick photo op. Leadership, or rather the lack thereof, is at the heart of this problem. There's no excuse for not knowing your city is being targeted because large numbers of black people live there. There's no excuse for these Negro politicians not putting their heads together, but the truth is these clowns aren't in charge. The white power brokers and influence peddlers who put them in office are the ones who are really calling the shots. The Sylvester Turners are just their puppets. So the black folks in these areas are going to have to move in their own interest and in their own defense, and they had better do it. Because so long as these bootlick politicians are in charge, the water's not the only thing that's dirty. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Cloudwalker Z, Ron T. Howard, Vincent Ali, Jordan Ensley, and Deep Eye 904. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.